So if you guys haven't heard, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete, South Bend's very own mayor, is absolutely terrible in every possible way. He's received a ton of criticism and well-deserved criticism for his job as Transport Secretary in the United States of America. Because he's objectively awful at it, he's a buffoon, he's stumbling and bumbling his way through it, and he's awful in every way. And yes, I said awful twice to describe him. That's how you know I really mean it when I'm duplicating adjectives because, whatever adjectives. But here's the thing. While we're not going to criticize Pete Buttigieg for taking paternity leave, because honestly, I think it would be stunning and brave for a man in any position of power to take paternity leave, and I think that he should be cheered, jeered, praised, and raised up for doing so, because we're a progressive channel. This is very progressive. We are going to criticize the fact that Pete Buttigieg has a plot in the name of equity to extract money from your pockets in this newest infrastructure plan. But we have a sponsor, we're talking about money, and instead of taking it out of your pockets, let's talk about putting money in your pockets. Noble Gold Transition. This year is flying by. You are a year closer to your retirement, but I got a question for you. Are your savings a year closer to their retirement? If they're not, there's no need to worry. Even though there's a lot of volatility in the market, a lot of problems, a lot of fears related to inflation, I got a solution for you. And of course, it's our long-term sponsor, Noble Gold Investments. Diversifying your retirement is crucial to being successful. Hedge against inflation. Call them at 877-646-5347 and talk to them about a precious metals IRA. You can also visit them at noblegoldinvestments.com. Again, no upsells, nothing crazy like that. Just an expert that's going to talk to you, that's going to explain what you want to get. And if you sign up, you get a qualifying purchase. Guess what? 1/10 of an ounce American Eagle gold coin as a gift to you. That's noblegoldinvestments.com, 877-646-5347. So I was going to talk about how failing upward is a unique thing that we see in the Democratic Party, but honestly, it's something that we see in politics all the time, and it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. If people could be successful in the real world outside of politics, they wouldn't need to pursue power in order to make themselves into successes. And Pete Buttigieg is no exemption to the rule that we're talking about. Now, to be clear, the greatest failure upward of all time is Kamala Harris, an absolutely terrible attorney general who ended up becoming a senator, who ended up lucking her way into the VP slot, who's absolutely failing where she is right now. But Pete Buttigieg, close second, runner-up right behind Kamala Harris, because Pete Buttigieg somehow got himself as the Transportation Secretary of the United States of America, despite the fact that in terms of Indiana, his job as mayor of South Bend, he literally did the absolute worst in managing the infrastructure in his city. Pete Buttigieg was so bad at managing the roads in South Bend that Domino's Pizza gave a $5,000 grant to the city of South Bend so that Pete Buttigieg could fix the damn roads. And by the way, you're not misreading this headline. Domino's Pizza gave the grant to Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg didn't give them the grant because Pete Buttigieg didn't know how to fix any potholes. This is not a joke. This is not something that is being said now that he's been nominated as Transport Secretary. This is something that was actually a criticism of him while he was mayor of South Bend, Indiana for 8 years. Constantly and consistently, people talked about how South Bend had absolutely the worst potholes of any part of Indiana in the whole state. It's amazing that this guy, of course, was nominated as the Transportation Secretary when he's proven to be so bad at it. But again, failing upwards, again, the idea that you would have a gay man leading a department was apparently too good for Joe Biden to pass up. So Pete Buttigieg is the head of our transportation department, a department that doesn't really need to exist, but he is. And even though his job should be as simple as taking the gas tax revenue and investing it in roads, Pete Buttigieg has broadened his definition of infrastructure to mean everything from childcare to climate-related stuff, and of course, he's obsessed with trains. I don't know what it is about the Democratic Party and their obsession with putting people on trains, but look at the map of the United States of America, compare us to European cities, and you will realize we are far too spread out for a rail system to be effective, let alone cost-effective. And every idiot who tries to pursue train policy in the United States of America ends up failing miserably, and Pete Buttigieg will be the same. Look at the California rail project that was supposed to connect San Francisco to Los Angeles, estimated at $30 billion originally. The budget is already up to $100 billion. Oh, and by the way, it's not even going to connect Los Angeles to San Francisco. It's going to connect smaller towns in between those two in the hopes that in the future, after they spend over $200 billion building one station, that maybe, just maybe, they'll be able to connect one of the major cities, even though this thing was supposed to connect all the major cities, even though this is completely pointless because a flight takes 45 minutes, so there's really no need to take a train in order to transport yourself over this. But whatever, that's no big deal. Pete Buttigieg has got us covered because Pete Buttigieg knows what the real issue with our roads and bridges are. And it's not that the American Society of Civil Engineers has given our infrastructure a D, who has said that some of our bridges are absolutely mediocre, best case scenario, and the other ones are structurally deficient, worst case scenario. It's the fact that our infrastructure was built, was sewn, was baked into the asphalt that made all the roads with racism. And Pete Buttigieg is going to be pursuing an equity agenda in terms of infrastructure policy. Now, obviously, this means that there were too many white people in construction companies building our roads and bridges. So Pete Buttigieg is going to prioritize racial status in terms of who's getting contracts. And obviously, way too many men. So racial and gender status in who's getting all the contracts.
Secretary Mayor Pete, could you give us the breakdown of the implementation of Justice 40 with the infrastructure package that's now passed and signed into law? And also, can you give us the construct of how you will deconstruct the racism that was built into the roadways that you talked to the griot earlier when you broke that information with us? Can you talk to us about how that could be deconstructed?
For sure, yeah. So the principle of Justice 40 is that at least 40% of the clean investments in this bill will go to benefit the communities that are overburdened and underserved. So part one of that is defining those investments that are eligible, and that's a lot of it, and we're working to map out kind of program by program, mode by mode, what would qualify. For example, if we're buying clean buses, right, how do we make sure, in terms of where those buses go, but also looking at the business opportunity, the jobs that are going to be created, the businesses that will have a chance to compete for the business opportunities it creates. That, too, I think is a very important element of equity here that's in the spirit of Justice 40. And again, we have a lot of guidance and oversight from the White House since that's an administration-wide initiative. But we know that we've got to build our own internal kind of ways of aligning and defining that inside the administration.
Now, I, for one, am going to be really happy, really satisfied, really overjoyed when I find out that a black trans midget built the bridge that I'm currently falling off of because it collapsed due to the fact that Pete Buttigieg is completely focusing on the wrong things. It's really stunning, it's really brave, it's really charming, and I really appreciate that he's prioritizing the right things. I mean, men predisposed to construction work seems a little bit ridiculous. Obviously, strong women need to be out there putting asphalt in the ground and filling potholes. That's something that they're totally prone to do and totally excited to do, and we need black female asphalt makers, man. We need them, and we need the asphalt to be green asphalt, like environmentally conscious asphalt, so we really need to work on that. Maybe Pete Buttigieg will invest in those solar roadways that are an absolute disaster that Thunderfoot has made 600 videos debunking. Now look, the black trans Scientologist midgets who are going to be building our roads in the future is just one aspect of the equity agenda that Pete Buttigieg is going to deal with, because it turns out not only were we fundamentally racist and horrific in our road building by giving money to white people, way too many white people building those roads, we were also horribly racist in the way that we constructed bridges, because allegedly, according to Mayor Pete Buttigieg, these bridges on the parkways are too low for buses to prevent Puerto Ricans from going to the beach. No, I'm not joking about that. That's a serious case that Mayor Petey has made related to our infrastructure and how systemic racism is literally built in. It's in the concrete. It's in the asphalt. It is in every aspect of America. The arteries of our nation are our roads. And guess what's in those arteries? Racism, meaning that the blood that pumps in our nation is racist blood. Blood, racism, blood, soil, racism. That's what Pete Buttigieg is obsessed about. Yes, I just said Pete Buttigieg is talking about blood in the soil, which, you know, amazing on my part, honestly. But yeah, that's a huge deal.
As to where we target those dollars, I'm still surprised that some people were surprised when I pointed to the fact that if a highway was built for the purpose of dividing a white and a black neighborhood, or if an underpass was constructed such that a bus carrying mostly black and Puerto Rican kids to a beach, or that would have been in New York, was designed too low for it to pass by, that obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices.
Now, Andrew from Don't Walk Run Productions, a very good guy, friend of the channel, actually has a video where he debunks this very specific talking point from Mayor Pete Buttigieg and from the left wing about how parkways have low bridges in order to prevent buses from taking people to the beach in order to enforce some kind of racism against Puerto Ricans specifically, but probably also black people. And it's fantastic. I definitely recommend you watch it. I will link it in the description. But to give you the long and short of how ridiculous this idea is, it makes a lot more sense to point out the fact that parkways have lower bridges, lower overhanging bridges, because parkways are for passenger cars only. So why would you need the bridges to be much higher and much more expensive in order to have vehicles cross under them when those specific vehicles are banned from the parkway in the first place? Therefore, you would just be spending more money raising the bridges for no particular purpose.
Or if an underpass was constructed such that a bus carrying mostly black and Puerto Rican kids to a beach, or that would have been in New York, was designed too low for it to pass by, that obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices. That obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices.
That obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices.
That obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices.
You know, we talk a lot on this channel about desperately searching for racism, trying to cling to something in the past in order to say it's bad, so you in the future looking back can say, I'm better than those people. And this is one of the more ridiculous examples. And again, if Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, knew anything about transportation in the United States of America, he would know that passenger cars are the cars that are allowed on parkways. Therefore, what he was saying was ridiculous. The most simple answer, Occam's razor, is usually the correct answer, and that is 100% true in this case. But yet, Mayor Pete, really angry, really upset, gotta raise those bridges, gotta spend all that money. I mean, we have degraded infrastructure all over this country, but what we really need to do is raise it up so that way minorities can take the buses and not go on the parkway because they're not allowed on the parkway, so that they can get to the beach, so that we could fight racism in the past in places like New York and all these places that built their bridges that overhang their roads in one of the most efficient ways that was practical at the time. But Pete Buttigieg is trying to label racist. Now look, this is all so far standard wasting of money with a little bit of democratic racism infused into it. It's actually not that surprising, because when you think about it, the gas tax should cover everything that it needs to cover in terms of our roads and bridges in the United States of America. Every single American pays 17 cents directly to the federal government that was supposed to go to the highway fund and pay for our roads out of every single gallon of gas that they purchase. So the more you drive, the more you pay for the roads and bridges in the United States of America. However, over the years, the highway fund has been changed, converted, diverted away from that into a generalized transportation fund. So we're subsidizing rail, Amtrak, we're subsidizing all these green energy products, and everything under the sun that the government wants to cover with that money, except for our roads, bridges, and highways. This is why they're in such decay. There was always enough money to cover what was needed to maintain these things, but that money is constantly being diverted to subsidizing other forms of transportation that politicians think that you should be utilizing more based on their own preconceived notions about how the nation should be managed. It's ridiculous in every way, but it's standard operating procedure. But one of the things that I want to talk about, one of the things that I really am going to emphasize in this video, is the fact that the Democrats have this reputation as the party of the little man. The Democrats have the reputation as these people that are advocating for the individual that's downtrodden, while the Republicans are pro-big business and they're just looking for a way to crush the poor. Well, Pete Buttigieg, in light of that, in light of saving the downtrodden, has thought of a new scheme to create equity on the road. You see, they smear the police as racist. They talk about how the police are pulling over minorities all the time due to the fact that they're evil, racist police officers. So Mayor Pete has a great solution for that, and that solution is to put speed cameras all across the country. Now, I don't know about you guys. I don't know if these are implemented in your area, but they're implemented in mine, so I have a lot of experience with these speed cameras. And what the government does is first, they cut the speed limit to about 25 miles an hour. And 25 miles an hour is such a great speed limit if you want to drive from one light to another and you want that other light to turn red before you make it, so you're stuck in traffic consistently because you have to abide by the speed limit of 25 miles an hour. Because if you don't, these cameras are set up everywhere, so that way they take a picture of your license plate and they issue you a speeding ticket based on you going over a certain threshold of speed. Now, Pete Buttigieg says, look, racism is the biggest problem in this nation. We got to stop these racist cops. And these racist cops are writing people tickets based on them observing them speeding. So the solution is to make sure every single American gets way more tickets. So before, there was a little bit of an element of luck in the situation. If you happen to be speeding in a certain area and an officer happened to be in that area and they happened to observe you speeding, then you would get pulled over, and then it would be based on the officer's discretion on whether or not you got a speeding ticket. But Pete Buttigieg is trying to get rid of that altogether. Pete Buttigieg is trying to throw traffic cameras everywhere so that there is no dispute. There's no need for an officer. There's no need for somebody to write you a citation. If you go over the limit, even for a second, that camera will snap and a ticket will be mailed to your home. This is a direct tax on the poor in order to pay for other ridiculous components of his agenda, like raising the bridges on the parkway so buses that aren't allowed on the parkway can go through those bridges because those buses carry Puerto Ricans to the beach.
Or if an underpass was constructed such that a bus carrying mostly black and Puerto Rican kids to a beach, or that would have been in New York, was designed too low for it to pass by, that obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices.
Yes, this is legitimately what Pete Buttigieg is going for. This ticketing of you on the road via machine is meant to pay for California's rail system that is never going to get built. It's already been delayed 10 years, and it's already up in terms of cost $70 billion because Pete Buttigieg needs more money, and he's framing it in terms of equity. The Democrats are punching you directly in the face, or actually in reality, directly in your wallet, and they're telling you that they're doing it to fight racism because ultimately their agenda is to extract as much money, as much capital as humanly possible from you. And I got news for you. If you seized all the billionaires' wealth in this nation, you wouldn't be able to pay for half of the Democrats' agenda in a single year. So yeah, while you might not be able to drive over the roads and bridges of the United States of America without dinging your car due to potholes or without bridges collapsing in this great nation, you can be rest assured that Pete Buttigieg is considering gender, sexuality, and race in terms of who he's hiring to not fix those bridges. He's thinking about raising bridges on the parkway instead of fixing the ones that are in decay so buses can bring Puerto Ricans, even though buses aren't allowed on the parkway. And he'll be ticketing the hell out of you by subsidizing the implementation of these cameras across everywhere. And by the way, in New York, they're near school zones, but I got news for you. We live in a densely populated city. Every single place is a school zone, and if they implement it at a set period of time, trust me, they will be increasing that time. That's what Governor Cuomo did when on Mother's Day, in order to celebrate the mothers, he increased the time threshold of these cameras from about 5 p.m., when around school time, to all the way 11 p.m. at night, or was it 10 p.m.? It doesn't really matter. The fact is, these are revenue generating items, and they're meant to extract it from you, everyday Americans, that are already paying the gas tax. Now, unfortunately, if you don't want these policies implemented, if you're against them, that makes you a racist. So suck it up, bigot, and pay those tickets while you drive over those crappy roads, because Mayor Pete is back from paternity leave, which, by the way, he is stunning and brave for going on paternity leave. It is so noble of a man to take a break to be with his child. Absolutely amazing and impressive in every way. And pay those fines. Enjoy your crappy roads. That's what you get for voting for the Democratic Party. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, you can show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. You can follow me on all my social medias. You can support me via the support links in the description box. This has been me talking about Mayor Pete's plan to scam money out of you. Till next time.